everyone, time for another update, and today we are talking about, once again, the global dark night of the soul, and today we're doing part 4, and we're discussing more of the tools to get through the dark night of the soul. I don't know about you, but I've been through a couple of them. One of them that lasted 2.5 years, and I will tell you, without these tools I would not have completed it as soon as I did. And for me it was a really big one. So today we're going to be talking about the inner child and working with the challenges that the inner child will create in getting through the dark night of the soul. For those of you who are not familiar with the higher understanding or perspective of the inner child, here's my inner child right here. She decided to join me this morning. This is Izzy. Say hi, Izzy. Anyway, the inner child is a part of us who really is in control of our lives for most of us, because we have not been in control of our lives. Years ago when we were children, we did have a relationship with our soul and our inner child, but somewhere along the way, about the time we start school, that becomes disconnected because we're taught not to be too imaginative and too emotional and too right brain, in other words, and those are the ways that we connect with that part of ourselves, that childlike aspect. The inner child also has its other side, which is its dark side, and that's the part that we call the ego. And the ego has a very valuable role in our lives, and most of us don't realize that. We're taught to eliminate and destroy our ego, but actually the ego's job is our protector. It alerts us to when there are problems or threats to us, either real physical threats or emotional or energetic threats. So without the ego, we do not know when there is danger lurking. Therefore, it's like we don't have an alarm system. And without an alarm system, we're very vulnerable. So we're like 3-year-olds left out in the street, and we'll walk right into traffic and not have any fear. Therefore, we don't know that it's unsafe, and we could end up getting killed. So the ego does play a very valuable role. Now, when it comes to a dark night of the soul, this is where the real challenge is. You, the self, are the one who's supposed to be in the driver's seat here, because you have to make a decision at any given time of how you're going to move through this dark night of the soul. And the dark night of the soul is like moving through a dark tunnel without any light, and you're basically walking blind, and the only way that you know what to do is by following your inner guidance. Anytime you try to look outside of yourself for safety or security during a dark night of the soul, that safety or security will end up being false. Either it's a system that will crumble, like we're seeing today with our systems crumbling. First our banking system has crumbled, and then our industry is starting to crumble, and our financial system is starting to well, I said that, financial and industry, and then government. All these are starting to crumble. Even our religious systems, all these that we create our reality around, are starting to crumble. So when you're in a dark night of the soul, they will all crumble, because that shows you can't depend on them for safety and security. Where you can depend on is the God within you, that has always been there, the aspect of God that is within each of us, the soul, or we call it the higher self. That's who we must turn to, and that's what in particular this global dark night of the soul is about. It's about helping us finally get sick and tired of being sick and tired of depending on the God outside of us, and that can take many forms: government, finance, religion, whatever, and then complaining when they're corrupt or whatever, and learning to say, you know what, I'm just going to create my own safety. I'm going to start following my own inner guidance, and that's when we reclaim our power, and that's what this big global dark night of the soul is about. So back to the inner child. A couple of challenges they can create is blocks. When the fear comes up, unless they have a strong parent to guide them, they're going to block you from moving forward. And in their blocking, they can create major problems for you. So one of the things that I learned to do was the what's the worst thing that can happen technique. I took that from the 4th key of compassion, called hold on to nothing, and you'll have everything. And with that technique, I just go inside and I talk to my inner child and I say, okay, what's the worst thing that can happen? And I follow that through. In fact, there's another video on that one, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it here. You can go back and go to the Keys of Compassion videos playlist, and you'll find one on what's the worst that can happen. Then the other one is when working with my inner child, I let her talk. If she's afraid, I let her talk. And I also give voice to what she's trying to say by talking to someone safe. By giving her a voice and letting her share her feelings with me, it helps take the power out of them, and then she can settle down and help me to continue moving forward. The other thing is that I look for where I'm triggered and I'm angry. That's where the fear is. If I don't recognize those triggers and talk to my inner child and let her express them, they as well will block me. So hopefully this will help you in your dark night of the soul when you're working with your inner child and your ego. They're there to, the ego alerts you to where the fears are, but the inner child can also block you because she becomes afraid. So your job is to parent them and continue to follow the soul. Sometimes it comes down to something as simple as in your mind picking her up and holding her and saying, okay, what do you need for me to do to make this comfortable for you? And sometimes they just want you to hold them. They will follow you through hell and back if they know that no matter what, you will not blame them for whatever happens. And some of the ways that we can blame our inner child is through negative self-talk. I'm stupid, I shouldn't have done that, blah, 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 blah. If we tear ourselves down, the child hears that as us tearing them down, and to them that's the same as being rejected and abandoned. And they will do anything to avoid that, even if it means blocking us, because to them that's the only way they can survive, is if they know if we're going down a path and they know from past experiences gone bad, they're going to try to block us from going forward. So take these, use these, go back and watch the Keys of Compassion videos. They'll give you a lot of additional information and tools to get through this dark night of the soul. We've got 3 more years to go. We can do this. We can get through this. Talk to other people who are safe when your fear comes up. Start working with your inner child. If you do not have the Keys of Compassion, I encourage you to get your own set, because they're the tools that got me through my dark nights, and they will get us, and they can apply to any dark night. And I think you'll find them very, very helpful. So have a great week. Talk to you next week.